What's going on, everybody? My name is Ben, and welcome back to the bench for another episode of Rivals and Adversaries. We are back on the MiG-15 for Phase 2, and we're going to go ahead and see what trouble we can get into today. So let's go ahead and jump in. Now, last time I worked extensively on the cockpit. We got that attached into the front of the nose. We've got the gun shrouds attached, and there are some huge gaps we'll need to go ahead and address today. I've also done a little bit of work there, just preliminary guessing on the tail, try to get that all straightened out. And then, of course, we have other parts and pieces like the air brake module, and then the wings and all that good stuff. So we're going to jump in here, waste no time at all. We're going to get going on that time lapse. I want to start with the nose, and I want to start filling gaps. I'm going to be using some styrene strips, basic CA glue. We're going to go ahead and try to get in there, close up all the seams, and then rescribe. Once that is all rescribed, we can come in and a little wet sanding here and there. We're just going to paint over those areas to check for seam issues, check for gaps and all that. And then hopefully we'll be back and we'll have this MiG looking a little bit better. Then we can tackle the tail. So let's go ahead and get started, guys. Let's have some fun. Let's see what this MiG has in store for us today. All right, everybody, we are back, and the nose of the MiG is so far together. I've gotten most of the gaps filled. This is not easy to do, mind you. I had to use a lot of CA glue, a lot of strips of styrene. I had to come in and sand, rescribe, again. I don't really love how it looks, but you know what? I'm kind of over it right now. This kit is definitely biting back. So I don't really want to go ahead and waste more energy trying to fix something that I'm just not going to get looking as good as I'd like it. So we're going to go ahead and leave that off to the side right now to dry, and we're going to shift over to the tail. Now, I'm hoping the tail is going to go a little bit better, but knowing this kit, I'm going to have some issues. With the air brake module, that's going to be a really, really difficult time to get that in there. I might have to do something clever in order to get that to fit. We also need to go ahead and install the tailpipe because it is slightly visible on the outside of the MiG, just a tiny, tiny bit. I think on the kit it's like a millimeter, maybe 2 millimeters. So I'm going to go with it. I'm going to try to match it up as best as I can. It looks like we can actually install the tailpipe through the back of the fuselage. So that's actually going to be a real easy job. We should be able to just drop that in place and glue it down. So let's go ahead and jump into our next time lapse, guys. We're going to continue the same process on the tail. We're going to seam fill. We're going to use some CA glue, strips of styrene. We're going to rescribe everything that we can with a razor saw, sanding, and more sanding. Then we'll glue everything together and see how it fits. Hopefully, we're going to come out of this with at least a basic shape of that MiG fuselage. Let's keep pushing, see what we can do. All right, everybody. Oh, we are back. And as you can see, the MiG fuselage is together. And we've actually managed to avoid quite a bit of steps and all these different panels between the rear half of the fuselage and the front half. It still feels a little tail heavy, though. I might need to add more nose weight at some point. Right now, we have to move over to the wings. The front part of the wings fit fine, but the back part does not. So we need to come in here and open up each of these locating tabs. Just cut this out. I don't want to go too much, though, because then the wing won't really fit securely. So we're just going to go ahead and cut these out, and then we need to sand down the edges of the wing so that this actually fits in as close as possible. Even with a little bit of work, I can tell it is actually getting better. So I think a little bit more here, we should be able to get that wing nicely stuck in place, and then we can glue it down and, well, hope for the best. So far, the kit is fighting me at almost every turn. I know Joe had a lot of trouble with this kit as well, so it seems to be this kit is just a troublesome kit. But anyway, the fit is actually much better after a little bit of cleanup. So let's go ahead and clean up the other wing and get that going. Okay, so now we're going to come in and we're going to start sanding down a bit of that step between the front part of the fuselage and the rear part of the fuselage. I need to do some sanding. I need to go ahead and start attaching the wings, do a lot of seam filling. I need to do some Mr. Surfacer there on the wings, some styrene strips, more CA glue, and of course, sanding, and more sanding. I need to make sure the dihedral for the wings are correct and get the tail planes attached. And well, we'll just have to see how it goes. So back into that time lapse, let's keep pushing on, do some rescribes, get this thing looking a bit better. And by the end of this, we'll have ourselves a MiG. We're almost there, guys. Let's keep pushing. All right, everybody. So we are back. And as you can see, the MiG is together in its basic form. We've got the fuselage front and back parts. We've got the wings attached. We've got the tailplanes on. The cockpit is installed. It's not terrible, but it's also not great either. A lot of issues with different panels, and just the fit has been really difficult with this one. Everything that could go wrong today actually did. Starting off with the gun shrouds, all of that, the steps from the front and the rear fuselage, the air brake wells I had to slice like 3 different times and flare them out, get them to fit. We have our wing joints. As you can see, huge gaps along the undersurface of the wings. backfilled with styrene and super glue. Up top, super glue, and of course, a little Mr. Surfacer. The front equipment cover right here, that did not want to go on no matter how much I tried, but I eventually did get that in there, sanded it down, rescribed it. It looks okay, but it is nowhere from perfect. Not at all. Every single movable surface is actually posable and separate on this, so that was a real pain to get those lined up, but I think more or less the dihedral is okay. Looking forward, it looks pretty decent. Sideways, looking okay. From the rear though, the top of the fin seems to kind of lean to the left. I don't know if that's just an optical illusion or what, but it looks a little warped, to be honest. But you know what? I'm happy that it's together, and it's not too bad from certain angles. You really can't tell, so I'm good with it. We're going to go ahead and move on, though. Next episode, we got to come back on this and really start working on trying to get this thing looking a little bit more detailed, because might as well have some fun with it, right? So I'm thinking go ahead and adding in some wires and whatnot into the wheel wells. That should be kind of interesting to do. Maybe work on the cockpit a bit more. I got to get that gun sight ready to go, and then I might have to address the rear decking behind the cockpit. I don't know how much action really goes on back there. It's pretty Spartan in most of the references I've seen, but might be something to do back there. And of course, I got to prime this thing. I'll probably use some Mr. Surfacer. That will give us a nice, solid priming foundation. We can come back and check all of our different panels and seams. The front gun shrouds are probably the worst area in this entire model. Everything else is more or less fixable. And I think I've kind of figured out what this model is designed to do. If you want to build a MiG-15 with all the parts and pieces open and exposed, like the dropped guns, the open cockpit, the rear tail removed, the engine exposed, the air brakes out, the flaps down, the ailerons posed, the tail surfaces posed, this is a great model for that. You won't have to deal with any of the issues if all the parts are just not attached. Though if you want to go ahead and build it like I'm building it and like Joe did, where we have everything together, that's a little bit more challenging. So this is a great model for maybe like a diorama or something, somehow maybe like a maintenance area or something like that. But to do what I'm doing here with it, probably would have been better to go with Tamiya or go with the new Bronco kit. But anyway, guys, we are done for today. We've made it through the episode. So we'll see you back here on episode 5. Until then, you know the drill. Go out there and get yourself some bench time, have some fun, build something cool. Make sure to go check out Joe's Saber. It is looking sweet. And we'll see you back here on the next episode of Rivals and Adversaries, Curse of the MiG-15 for episode number 5. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you soon.